Rowley, Rowley, 5091 45th Street North, St. Petersburg, Florida. Phone 813-527-4898. Wednesday, February the 22nd, 1989, at his home in St. Petersburg with Helen Earley of the Oldsmobile History Center. Tape 1 of 1 tape. This is a full tape. Let's start now, Bob, and you tell me who you are and where you live. We'll take it from there.
Well, I'm Bob Rowley, and I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I'm going to come down here and officially on April the 1st, 1980. And
When did you hire in at Oldsmobile?
48,
1948?
right?
What month? Do you remember?
I can't tell you for sure.
Okay. Did you go through the employment office?
Right.
To hire in? Who was
Shields hired me.
Okay.
I worked at Fisher first. I didn't like Fisher very well.
What did you do at Fisher?
I was on the trim line.
What does the trim line do?
Where you trim the bodies with upholstery on the convertible cars.
Okay.
And put the convertible tops on, trim them.
Let's go into a little detail on that. Do you mind?
Well, you got to be somewhat of an upholsterer or a trimmer to do that. And I used to work with my dad, what they call spit and tacks. You put a couple kinds of tacks in your mouth. You got a hammer that's magnetized, and you're able to spit tacks and do it pretty fast.
Now, you were, is this a seat upholstery you were tacking on, or the doors?
No. It was leather upholstery or plastic on the convertibles.
On the seats?
On the seats and on the trim wood around the seats and,
okay.
And things of that sort.
So you were working at Fisher. When did you hire in at Fisher?
I don't know, a few months before that. I've worked all together at Fisher probably about 6 months, I imagine.
How did you get transferred from Fisher over to Oldsmobile?
I did, and I quit Fisher and went to California and come back and went to work at Olds.
Okay, and that was in 1948.
Yeah, and Shield asked me, he says, if I hire you, will you stay? I said, well, certainly I'll stay. I need a job. All the time I thought, well, I'm going to spend 3-4 months and I'm going back to Florida. And I never did go back. I went to work at up to the axle plant.
What building was that in?
Up where Stores 1 is. I can't remember the name of the number of the building.
I'm sorry.
But it was way up where the bumper presses were, done all the chrome plating. Chrome plating stuff was in 77. And the bumper plant presses were north of that building. And I worked for a guy by the name of Herb Schroeder on one shift. And sometime I'd be on the other shift and work for Herb Myers. Both excellent people.
They were your direct foreman?
They were the direct foreman. Very nice.
Who were the superintendents in those areas?
Wallinger.
He covered both areas?
I guess he did. He was Wallinger, best I know he did.
How much did you say you were hired in at?
$1.46 an hour.
46 cents an hour.
Wallinger quit and went to Ford and went to work. Believe it or not. I don't know how he made out. I never heard.
Okay.
But, and after there.
Well, what did you do on your job?
I run a press.
What did it press?
It pressed rear track bars on one press I run.
Where do they use rear track bars?
On the rear of the car. Not all cars have them anymore, but they did then.
Where did they put them on the car?
Well, between the axle and the frame.
Okay.
It was just make it sturdy, I guess.
How big a bar was that?
Oh, about 3 foot long, 1.5 inches square.
Heavy bar?
Heavy bar, yeah. And I run the stamping press for lower control arms that go into their A-frames.
Now was that?
Then I run the forming press after that.
What does the forming press do?
Well, you stamp out a blank piece of steel, and it goes to another press that forms whatever you're making.
Okay, what did you make? Hoods, fenders?
No, they stamped out lower control arms.
Lower control.
They go underneath the front of the car on both sides.
Okay,
And they make what you call an A-frame with the control arms. And then I used to run the spring seat that goes between them. That's on another stamping and forming presses, whole roll of them.
were these all in the same area? These
Same area,
presses were
same
all in-
department. Yeah, and even I got to where I knew all the jobs in the place. And they would use me as a utility guy. I'd go take the place of people that was absent all the time, which I liked. You didn't do the same thing every day, you know?
How
Yeah.
were the safety practices then?
Well, we never seemed to have any safety problems. I'll tell you, I got some splintered steel into my arm a couple of times. But Mo and Paul, I just wasn't looking what I'm doing, but
Did you wear safety glasses?
oh yeah, everybody wore safety glasses.
Did you wear safety shoes?
Yep. Yep, you didn't have to wear safety shoes there, but I did. Right the day we went in, they had them.
Could you get them in the safety store?
Yep. Never bought any place else. The best price, best shoe, I think. But even after I spent some time in there when the jet plant started, building 37, they started that disc making down there, machining
Disc?
discs to go into compressors of a jet plane.
Okay, now what is a disc?
Well, that's kind of hard to explain. It's shaped like a dish. It's got an ID hole in it, and the big deal, it's anywhere from about 20 inches to 30 inches round. And
In diameter?
in diameter, right? And
And that went into the jet engine?
that was made the compressor part of a jet engine. Oldsmobile ended up making them for Martin bombers.
Now, what year was that? 52?
Well, I was probably about, I would say in there sometime. You remember when they built the jet plant?
No, I can't tell you.
Well, that's when it was transferred from the main plant to the jet plant. And I went over with it. And I worked for a foreman by the name of Ward Carey. Very nice fellow. And his boss was, I'll tell you offhand. But anyway, they had to have more supervisors. And they sent me over to take a bunch of tests. The test was, I mean, there was nothing to them. You run through them real fast. And they put me on as a foreman of that department that I was working in.
Where'd you go to take the test?
Over to building 70. There was nothing to it. I didn't think anyway at the time. I got through them real fine.
That must have been building 60.
60 it was. Where 70 is now. Yeah, it was building 60, right? I don't even remember who gave us the test and who didn't. I got no idea. All I know was I was over there and I was interested in passing it. I did. I passed it in flying colors and they put me on.
Now then you became, from an hourly person, you became a salary person.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was about 52, 3.
Yeah, I remember my first salary I made. I went on for $416 a month.
Good.
And that was pretty good at that time, you know? But,
Okay, then what were your
So
job
fifth-
responsibilities?
well, I stayed there until the jet plant completely closed down.
But what were you doing in your area?
Well, we made all the compressor discs for the whole compressor. A whole pile of them.
That was your area.
That was my
How
area.
many people were working for you?
Oh, I would say there's about 20. Now we run the disc from the rough until it was completely finished and ready to be assembled. The whole thing. We done,
They were made out of steel.
yep. Steel all come to the forge plant. They forged it over there. And it was a special kind of steel. I don't know what it is. It had a lot of nickel in it, but exactly what it was, I don't know, and I never did know. Somebody or another, I didn't really want to know, you know? But, we had it down pat and we've done as good as could be. Del McRae was a plant manager at that time. Yeah. And, at the end of the run, the forge plant messed up and they didn't make enough forgings to finish out the even number of compressors we were making So we tried something slick, making the right piece out of the wrong forging. And we done it. And Del McRae sat down there. He didn't know what to do, nothing about it. He didn't know what was going on, but he had to go see. And he stuck down there for 3 weeks with us guys. Down in and out all the time. But we did. We made the correct compressor out of the wrong forging. And it worked slicker than a whistle. Almost impossible, but the guys I had knew what they were doing, and they done it. Saved them lots of money. A lot of money.
Oh, it was quite unique, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What kind of a man to work with was Del McRae?
Well, he was a boss over the whole thing. You never saw him much. Once in a while he'd come down and walk around. But the gang I had got real well acquainted with him right at the end. Because he was interested in making these extra compressor discs. Which pulled the good in, we done it. And I'm proud of both them guys.
Who were some of the men that worked for you? Do you remember?
You
their
know,
names?
I can't name them. I remember one big boy I had named Gene Flowers. He run the rough end of the place. Great big strapping guy.
What do you mean the rough end?
Well, they first cut the forgings out of the rough stock. He run that. And I had another boy that worked with me named Harry Lay. And I just can't name the rest of them. I don't know what they were.
Did you have girls in the office?
Nope, I had one foreman's office and it was all mine. Nobody there. In fact, there was not even any women down in the general foreman's or the superintendent's office either. Buell Sadler was the superintendent at that time.
Buell Sadler?
Buell Sadler,
Sadler.
right?
Okay.
When the jet plant was finished, they put him over in, oh my goodness, right next to the railroad track in there, where they were building 155 naval guns
What time was this?
for the
Korean War?
for the Navy.
Was this the Korean War then?
No, I don't even know what war going on, to tell you the truth. All I know is they were building them. They had made guns during the war for the Navy and the Army, but now they were building a 155 millimeter long barrel gun
And this was the main plant?
in the main plant. When my department slowed down, because we were the first ones to machine everything. Everything had to go all the way through after we left it. We took some of my people over there, and Buell Sadler used them in his department, and I carried their time back in the old jet plant. Cost plus 10%.
Yes.
That was all free over there at the other side.
Well, how long did that situation exist?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know, probably about 2 months with me. And then when they got all done and closed up shop, I was interviewed by Bob Cook.
What was his title then?
Bob Cook was the head of that engine plant business down there. He must have been some kind of a boss over the superintendents. I don't know what you'd call him, some kind of a manager.
Okay.
But him, myself, and Stark Thompson were interviewed by Bob Cook
For what position?
to go into the engine plant
As a
as a foreman.
foreman. Okay.
And he took both of us. Me and the machine floor way up the front end where we made a lot of stuff we made push rods, valve guides, other parts for standard shift cars, and UA locks. Oh, I don't know what a number of things. We finished all that material. Small parts, that's right.
What building was that?
36.
36.
Right.
Okay.
And then after that,
Now, Buell Sadler was working in.
he was over in the other building
Oh, I
making
see.
guns at this time. They moved me away from him altogether. I was long gone. The gun plant gradually closed down. I don't remember when it closed down.
Okay.
And from that time, they took me and put me down in the machine floor where they were on machining heads. And they cut back on personnel. It must have been 56 or so. And I went back hourly.
Now you mean machining heads for
For the
what?
car, the
For
engines,
For the,
Oldsmobile engine,
was that 6 or 8 cylinder?
8-cylinder, V8, the 88.
Okay, and was that still in building 36?
Yeah, 36 and 38.
Okay, and who was your foreman then?
Can't tell the boy's name. I know him, but I can't
But you
remember.
went back on hourly.
I went
then.
back hourly. That's right. Little short, chunky, red-headed fellow, but I can't tell you his name. And I was getting disgusted being on hourly. And I just about go up and told him I didn't want to come back. And there was a strike coming on. Just before the strike, they put me back on salary. 3 or 4 days before. And I felt a good deal better about it, you know. And we went through that strike and one other one.
Well, then, when you went back on salary again, what was your area of responsibility?
Well, I had been sent to Detroit on a head assembly machine that they were making. Myself and 2 electricians.
Do you remember who they were?
No, I cannot remember their names. They were the best they had in the engine plant. We went down there for 4 or 5 days on this.
Where in Detroit did you go?
GM Tech Center, where they built the machine. It's still running today.
Which machine was this again?
Head assembly.
Assembly machine.
Huh?
Okay.
And when we run the machine, it started with the head after it was washed, plugged on the ends of Welch plugs, and would come down to our machine, and we would assemble everything that goes in that head completely. All they had to do was put it on the engine and tighten it down. Even the nut, even the bolts, the head bolts were all in the machine. Spark plugs were all in it, the washer, the valve springs, and the keepers, and the studs to put the exhaust manifolds in were all in that thing. And we could run 400 an hour, over 400 an hour. And we run it one shift for a long time until production got so high that we couldn't make enough for 2 shifts. And they put it on 2 shifts then. Well, today they don't use that machine to its capability. And I went down there. It's been a long time since I was there. I stand back and look at it, and I go up on the line, and I still could not understand why they didn't do it. They had, well, they got 2 kinds of spark plugs. I says, true, we had 2 kinds of spark plugs.
What do you mean 2 kinds of spark?
Low compression, high compression engine at that time.
Oh,
They had took 2 different spark plugs.
right.
And we would take the low compression engines on a pallet up to the line. When the engine come by for that, the person would take it off the pallet, put it on the head instead of getting off the overhead conveyor. But I don't know why they didn't do it. They quit. To me, they were wasting manpower with a machine going by that they could have been doing it down there where it's assembled. The person didn't have to be on the assembly line. In fact, they put spark plugs in up there, and it took 2 people on the line to keep the plugs in it. And up there on the head assembly, it took 1 person. I never did try to find out why, because it was their business, you know. But it lost me when they done it.
Now, was that still in building 36?
It's still down at just before building 52. It's still there. As far as I know, it's still there. And then after that, they put me opposite. The engine line was running 1 shift assembly. Then it went to 2 shifts. They took me off down there and put me opposite Joe O'Lear.
Who was he?
Joe O'Lear was a foreman on shift down there on the engine assembly line. So I went down there with him for 4 or 5 days, and then he picked out a whole bunch of people and gave them to me. And I went to work for Fred Webb.
What were you doing with him?
I was foreman on the assembly line. Fred Webb was the general foreman.
Still on the engine.
Still on the engine. That's right. Excellent fellow, Fred Webb was.
Would he be one of your favorite foremen, you think?
General foreman.
General foreman?
Yeah. Him and Ward Carey. And they were 2 opposite people, but they were both very good people to work with.
What do you mean 2 opposite people?
Well, Fred was a very nice religious Baptist fellow. And he thought well of the church. In fact, we'd gone over to church with him sometime when we was on strike. We'd go to church with him, you know. He'd take us. The other fellow I was, I don't know whether he ever went to church. If he wanted to drink, he'd take a drink. And I don't think Fred Webb probably never took one in his life. You know? But, long in there somewhere, they sent me to Flint, to GM Tech, for 2 weeks.
What were you studying over there?
Just learning management. That was a little bit before they made general foreman out of me. I think that's probably what it was for.
Remember what year that was?
Probably about 56 or so, something like that. I don't know exactly. It's hard for me. I don't.
This
Never had a reason to remember. See?
true.
Yeah. Oh goodness. I mean, as a general foreman. Well, I was on the assembly line for a couple of years. I started there, I think in 56. No, sir. I didn't start as foreman on the assembly line until 57. That's when they made what they call the J2 engine.
Right?
It had 3 two-barrel carburetors on it. And we finished off all those engines that year they were going to have. And then they had a strike with it, or a cutback. I ended up as a foreman on material handling, working for Earl Hershey. A good fellow. Been there too many years. Earl.
What building was that?
That was in 27, 20, it was in 27, I think. It was 27, 28. I don't, it was right below where first aid was. And then Earl Hershey retired. You know, they made me a general foreman.
Hey, now what does material handling do?
They don't do what they used to do.
Now, what did they do when you?
Well, they inventoried all the stock daily, turning in all the shortages. After got down to a 3-day limit, I think it was. We turned all the parts into material control. And then material control would get them ordered and they'd follow them until they got to the plant. To make sure, a lot of times they mess up, they'd fly them in, they'd truck them in. Just any old way to get them there to keep the lines running.
So you actually didn't let any part get below a 3-day supply?
No, 3-day supply that was it.
Critical.
That's critical then.
So, but that must have been kind of a manual thing. You didn't have anything mechanized to keep.
No,
your
it was all
records,
done with pencil and paper.
right?
All pencil and paper. Not like today. But I will say one thing, we never shut the line down. All the years I was there, we never shut the line down because of a shortage of a part. There was times that a special engine have a special part. We go into the superintendent and we tell him, you're not going to be able to run that engine because we are out of that part. We won't make it. So they would run another engine. That's that close, but.
Well, now, what special part couldn't you run? So
I don't know whether it was maybe the wrong kind of a spark plug, we'll say low compression engine, we'll say that. Or, I don't know what the parts is. I can't remember even. I really don't.
these were all 8-cylinder engines.
All 8-cylinder engines. All 8. 350 cubic inch and 455s.
Okay.
Yep. And, oh goodness, from there, let's see what happened. I went to Stores 1.
Where is that located?
Way up there next to the plating plant, back at the axle plant where I started.
That was
The
built
same building. Well, it's west of 77, what, 78?
Okay.
Could have been that. Same building plant protection's in yet today.
Right. Now, do you remember the year that you went over there?
No. Must have been 58 or 59 or 60 maybe.
General foreman.
Yeah.
What did you do over there?
Well, I've done the same thing over there.
Material handling.
Done our stock. We had all the people that handled the material, kept the stuff on the line. Same kind of a job.
How many people did you have working for you in that area?
I run a store to one there, probably about 75 people at that time.
Well, Bob, Stores 1 would have different types of parts coming into it than some other stores.
Oh, yeah.
What types of parts
Oh,
came
yeah.
into
Well, we
Stores
made the
1?
axles.
The axle.
We assembled the axle assembly, the rear ends of the car. We had all those parts we had to take care of and get in.
And that was all stores one
That was
did.
all stores one's job. That was their job. We made, some small assemblies for the bumper plating. When he was assembling the bumper, I forgot what it was. With other things they made, production, run a bumper line, and they run a small parts department, making small parts to go into the dashboard and like that to the car. And we had to keep all those parts in. And those general foreman superintendents all were leery, running out of stock. All were leery. So they would make a bunch ahead, 50 pieces of something in a box. And they go hide the box. And they give us a shortage, see? So we had to order. But pretty soon we got wise of all that stuff. We found all their hiding places where they hid the stuff. We'd inventory it without them knowing it. And they used to lock it under a key. And I worked with one of the guys in the shop there I knew, and he made me a key to unlock all the locks. So we went through, and when we would do our inventory, sometimes on a Saturday, we'd have to come in and do some. We'd go down and unlock them all, and we'd inventory.
Why would they?
Well, they were just afraid of running out and shutting down their place. They were just afraid of doing it. It was a silly thing, because they didn't know they had the best people in Oldsmobile working for them,
That's right.
But it was a comical thing. But it was tit for tat, it was a lot of fun.
Now, you supervised both hourly and salary people.
Oh, yeah.
Remember any situations with hourly people?
Like what?
Well, any situation, a comical one or
Oh, yeah, I
a
remember.
problem.
I remember some baddies I had problems with, and I did get rid of them. Trying to get rid of a person out of a GM or Oldsmobile will say was not an easy task. Nothing easy about it, because they didn't like to fire people. But we did, and we got rid of them for good. We
It
had,
have to be pretty bad though before.
oh, you bet. That's right. You had to build a case history on them. So the second or third time you have a problem with this person, you start building a case history.
You want to cite any incident without naming any names?
Well, yeah, I had a girl down the engine plant that worked real close to the desk where I was. And she's always late, always late. And some day she didn't come in.
Would you know she wasn't going to come in? Would she call in?
Oh, no, just when the line started, she wasn't there. That's all, just nobody there. And I used to write her up, give her reprimand, and talk to her and do what I could. And she got enough so that she was fired. Of course, we had an umpire meeting, which is just like going to court down in Hotel Olds. And the union had their side, management had their side, and the umpire, he's the judge. And he asked the questions. And you answer just as best you can. And then the judge makes up his mind what he's going to do. So you go back to work, and this woman, she's still out of the plant, see? And about 2 months later, he'd give us his answer. Now, mind you, all the time the woman sat there waiting for a job.
I mean, she wasn't working?
No, sir, because we fired her.
Oh, I see.
And the union trying to get her back, see?
I see.
So, got the answer, and the first thing he said in his letter was, this girl was a girl of many parts. And he was sorry that she was a woman like she was. She never named what was the matter with her, not like that. He just used those words. And he would like to see Oldsmobile put her back to work on a trial basis. And if she doesn't do what she's supposed to and gets fired again, the union will have no recourse. 1 week and she was fired again.
So you took her right back to the same
Took her right
job
back
she
on the
had?
same job, same place, and she was all done in a week. She didn't come to work. And I'll tell you how far out bent we got. Her kids called one morning to me in the shop. And want to know, is my mama there? And I talked to the kids before. I said, no, she's not here. She must have been on the way to work. No, she didn't come home last night. That's when she got canned. Had bad business. Labor Relations went out there to see what was the matter. Thought maybe something was really wrong. And they knocked on that door, and she come to the door. All they said, "Are you coming to work?" She said, "Yep." Labor Relations started to leave. She hollered, "Well, wait a minute, you can take me back to work with you." They did. Took her back to work with them, which I wouldn't have done. I told her to walk if she's going to get there. But they did. They took her back to work. That's when we got all, well, fussed up and canned her out. But she wasn't the first one. I had a lot of problems with the other ones down the other. Yep.
So, well, do you want to just cite the incident without
Well, we
naming
had
any
2 or 3 more upstairs. One that we had trouble with people. We did get rid of 3 or 4 of them. And some stores wanted to give me what was called Stores 3 at that time, because the general foreman down at Stores 3 retired.
Now, stores 1 and 3.
That's where the axle plant was.
Yeah, would they take in both the same things?
No, sheet metal. You remember where the sheet metal building was across the main plant right there on the same street?
Yes.
That was Stores 3.
Okay, what did they take?
Sheet metal
Only.
only. That was all their deal, receiving and shipping sheet metal. They stuck that on to me at the same time, which was all right. But and we also took over, when I was at Stores 1, we took over the F-85 assembly. We were making a brand new car.
1960, 61.
Yeah, they were making that car. And then after that was gone, F-85 was moved out to the main line and
That was in building
went over to the main line at that time. Stores 5, they call that.
Stores 5.
Yeah. And after that, a little time in 66, they come in with a Tornado and put it in the same place where the Cutlass was running. And we used to keep all the material in stuff for that car, which was another deal where it was all done by hand, paper and pencil and a hand machine, see? And the guys doing the job, they had to know what they were doing. They had to do a good job. And we never shut the line down for want of a part. Sometimes they'd have to fly it in from Kentucky or Georgia or somewhere, but they'd fly it in. We'd make it on time, keep it running. I understand now, when they get short of a part up the assembly line, that if you run out of a part and it's coming, everybody sits right there and waits till the part gets in. Yeah, wouldn't that look pretty?
Yes.
But it happened because I called up there to a guy I used to work for. He was Assistant Superintendent Don Hudson. I said, "How are things going?" He said, "Not too good." I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "We got everybody sitting down waiting for parts coming in with an airplane." I said, "Don, I don't believe that." He said, "You don't have to, but it's the truth."
It's just in time.
That's what they got now,
Yes.
just in time stuff now.
Apparently, isn't
It must work. It must save them what they lose there. They probably save in having a build up storage and inventory and area and place to corral all this stuff, keep track of it. I don't know what the hell cost it is, because I wouldn't go local place like that. I don't think I'd make it. In fact, I've been back in the shop a few times, and what things I've seen there, I'm glad I retired.
You retired when?
I retired in officially April 1st, 1980. I left about the middle of January.
Now, did you retire because you planned to retire it then, or did you take advantage of one of the early?
Well, they didn't. That's another thing. There's something that hurt me, and to this day it still hurts me. I wrote a letter to retire, which I was able to. I was 57. I had enough points otherwise. I had 32 years and I was 57 years old. But she was supposed to get out of the cold weather. The doctor said her best place would be in the south. Well, I wrote a letter with my intent of retiring. I told them about it first, you know. And we come down here and bought this house in December '79. And I left her here all alone with a house full of furniture, all by herself. I have her brother over here not too far away that they hobnob with. And I went back to Lansing and went to work. And Ray Federal and Ray Federal's boss, like, gee,
Russell,
who?
Bob Russell?
No, I can't get his name off right now.
Tom Downey?
No, I'll get it later maybe. Come over my office. And we had most of the people out of the office working outside where it was noisy because we were redecorating the office. We'd repaint it, get it all fixed.
What building was that?
I was in stores 2 then. I got transferred all the way to stores 2.
And that building is, what building number? Stores 2 is in what building?
It's the old forge plant,
Okay.
all the way over there. And believe it or not, but we built axle assemblies over to the forge plant at that time too. They were taken out of stores 1. But they come over, wonder how I doing, and so on and so forth. That was about the time they were getting started with this deal where you got along with your people and people got along with you. And I can't think of what we called it. And then they had some of the people from up 70 take surveys of different departments of how they were doing. And
Like a communication type thing?
yeah, you might say that, and treating your people like they want to be treated, and them treating you like you want, you know. And later on, this other fella come over, and he says, "We got a question. How come you're number 1 at Oldsmobile on your department seems to like you better than other departments like their supervision? What do you do to acquire this?" And it was a surprise to me. I had no idea that they were doing this. He coming around and looking at this. I said, well, all I can tell you is that we got a bunch of good supervisors, and they treat all the people like they'd like to be treated, and we treat each other the same way. If a guy's got a problem, we talk to him. If he got a problem at home, we bring him, sit him down and talk to him. And if something we can do to help him in the shop or at home or his transportation, no matter what, we talk to him. Try to help him. And that's the only thing I can see that will do it. I guess that must have been it. Because we were the number 1 bunch at Oldsmobile at that time. And I don't know who was afterwards or anything because I retired.
And you also had both hourly and salaried people.
Oh yeah, over there we had, my goodness sakes, we had the forge plant. They were making steel, making axle shaft steel, and
How did you make steel?
oh God, I never got into it, but I went up there and watched them. They dump a little steel and a little coke and a little this and a little that into a fire, and they melt it. When it comes out, it's cherry red. It's a very big hunk of steel, and long and round, and it runs through a bunch of rollers, and it gets smaller and longer as it runs through. And it's called axle shaft steel. And they make all of the gears that go inside of the rear end over there in that forge plant. And they shipped that steel to Chevrolet, and I don't know who all bought it. A lot of companies bought it from us.
How many tons of steel would you think would go out?
Boy, I couldn't tell you. I had no idea, but we'd send 5, 6, 7 trucks a day, and they carry many tons of steel on each truck.
Adjust to the different car divisions of the.
Right, that's correct.
Would that be called a cold rolled steel?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Cold rolled steel.
That's what it was. That's right. Yeah. Then they made the ones for the cluster gear, the ring gears, the pinion gears, and in the plant where I was at next to it, they manufactured all those gears and machined them all. And they put them together and they mashed them to make the rear end. They made a complete rear end from beginning to end. When they were done, they shipped the rear end in. And we shipped to Buick every day, many semi-loads of
Rear axle.
rear axles, that's right. Cause in between all this business, one plant to another, they had me in the transportation department.
Oh,
And I was in charge of all the semis and your mail cars and a whole lot of other individuals that drove company cars. And anywhere in the state or even up to Chicago or down to Defiance or wherever they had to go, we'd take them.
and you were still reporting to Pedro.
Pedro was our boss.
Your boss.
Yeah.
And your title when you were doing that was,
Now, he was my boss for a long time, Pedro was.
you were a general foreman.
Right. I think, if I remember, I think they put me on about 1955 as a general foreman. I can't not remember for sure. But Dick Whiters was my boss.
Oh, yes.
And I got called up to his office once, near the end of the month, you know. He said, I forgot to tell you, but you're a general foreman. He said, you have been for 2 weeks, but I just haven't had time to tell you.
What kind of a man was he to work for?
Very good. He was a sailor. When you went up, you got your talking done, and you say something about a Navy ship or a sailor, you might as well spend another half hour with him. Very good. Betty Goucher, who you're going to see, was his secretary. Yeah. The other guy you're going to see, Cordy Cousins.
Cousin, I see him tomorrow, I guess.
I think he lived next door to Betty Goucher, if I'm not mistaken.
Can you?
I'm sure he did. He was up in the laboratory. Cousins was.
Oh, yeah.
Now Betty'd been here, and we were down there, and she wasn't home. But I haven't seen her in what, 3, 4, 5 years? Quite a while. I don't remember.
I haven't either, so this will be a nice.
Just off that, here's something to get off that a little bit. Did you know that they have the union has a picnic down here every year?
The union?
Yeah.
No.
They call it for hourly and salary people both. And I always go. It's Onika this last 2 years, and before that it was in St. Petersburg. And then 2 weeks or so after the picnic, they have what they call a Lansing Day down here. And they had their 24th year in a row last Monday. It's last Monday down in Bradenton. And the guy is kind of overseeing that for us down there right now, and I'm sending out the requests and some. Is old Bender out of Employment's office.
Orland Bender.
Orland Bender.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him the other day. Yeah. And
How many people were there?
well, to the one going to the first one, there was 450.
Oh, great.
And I would imagine there were probably somewhere around 400 to this Lansing Day.
Where do they have it? Where was the Lansing Day?
Well, I'll show you in just a minute. Oh, arthritis. Yeah.
I did turn it off while we were getting
I
the
know.
cards, but now you mentioned Rex Carter. He was the foreman, the general foreman.
Well, when I was making the action plan, he was the foreman, and we were working with a group leader on a third shift because we had to have more parts. We had to have track bars and spring seats, some of that stuff, more of them. We just had a little skeleton shift working, and I was always doing my job and somebody else, helping somebody else do their job. And if somebody was sick and didn't, I'd run my job, part of that job. I'd try to keep the whole thing going, you know. And the guys, they didn't like it. They called some union guy over, Stewart, and he got on to me about it. This is when you still didn't have belonged to the union yet, see. And he told me I had to report to the other shift. And I said, I'm not going. So they went and got Rex Carter. Rex Carter told him, leave him alone. He's not going. He's doing his job. That's all it was to it. Never heard any more. But I finally had to join the union and become closed shop. And they give me 30 days or 90 days or something to join in. I didn't join till right up to the tail end of it. And I didn't. I wasn't in very long before I put on salary. I forgot just what. But it turned my stomach paying those guys for something I could do myself.
True.
Bet your life. We had a guy that stores one big, no, it stores four down by the railroad track. I can't name in that building either, but it's 52 down the sheet metal, 56 it was. And that poor guy, the midnight shift, he had a foreman by the name of Charlie Clark, part the time, and Glenn Schmidt, part the time. And this one guy kept coming in late. They tell me about him. We can't catch him. I said, what do you mean you can't catch him? They don't catch him. I said, okay. So I went out and parked my car at Plant Protection Gate. This was before all the new buildings were in. And I told the guy what I was going to do. So here he comes in about a half hour late. He didn't know me yet because I hadn't been there very long in that stores. I followed him all the way down to the department. Went in and changed his clothes. Come out and went on the job, went to work. I went up to him, I asked him, I said, told him who I was. I was his new boss, have been for a month. Now I said, don't you think it's right if you punch your clock card when you come in? Oh, he says, I forgot that. Oh, he had lots of problems with this guy. And he finally wanted to get some time off. I says, it's all yours, how much you want? He wanted 3 weeks, so he got 3 weeks. And he come back, before that was over, he wanted some more time, and I give it to him the second time. Third time I says, no, you got all you can have. You're no better than anybody else, you're not gonna have any more time. You must come to work. So he went over to the union, or to the labor relations. Labor relations called me, he said, why don't you give this time off, this fella? I said, he's had it twice. I said, he can't have any more time off. I said, you've got your head on straight, you know that, you know? So he quit. And he got a government loan of some kind to build some hotels and stuff in Lansing. And he's worth many a dollar today, same guy. Many a dollar. And I was going to, I forget the name of that place south of town, where we go eat. And we drove in the parking lot.
Oh, you mean out the Clarion in Lansing? Are you talking about
Yeah.
Long's?
No, out south, out straight south of town.
Well, that's south on South Cedar.
Yeah, not Cedar, but be large, I guess, Logan Street.
Oh,
Casanova.
oh yes, Casanova.
I drove in the parking lot, and there he sits in a Cadillac convertible with 2 guys and 3 women. He come over and he wanted to shake hands. I just rolled my car window up and let him go. You know, that was one of those times that you didn't get to him to see what was wrong exactly. 'Cause he was a little stubborn, and he knew what he was doing. He was working on this stuff all this time, and just working in there to get a little money to keep going with. That's all. But he got to be pretty big in Lansing.
For heaven's sakes.
Very good.
Bob, you had a pretty good working relationship with labor relations then too, didn't
Oh
you?
yeah, oh yeah. You
Who
better
did
believe
you
it.
work with through labor relations?
Oh, you name them. I think just about every one of them.
Like Jim Richards,
Yeah. Yeah.
Dick Phelan.
Yeah. One of the big boys, remember the guy who used to play football out the state? And the labor relations?
Fred Barrett.
No. And they put him in stores 2. He put not store 2, but in the old axle plant where I was, at the porch plant. I had a few problems. I'd go up and talk with him about it. You think this and that. And he agreed. He said, this is the way it's got to be. So, well, then you tell the union. He would. And he had to go to the main plant, get their opinion. Pretty soon he'd come back and change his opinion on me. I more or less was able to talk him into whatever I liked, I guess. I don't know what else. Nice guy, though. He just didn't have any experience. That was the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Did you work with Jim Lewis?
no. No. Well, we had a lot of committee people. Most of them are decent people. There were a couple that were off base. And those are the ones that we made laughing stock out of, 2 or 3 of them. took a little planning, but it always worked. You kind of had the upper hand if you used it right, you know.
I remember seeing any general managers out in the plant. Did we ever have a general?
Well, when they first, no, yeah, there was some from other plants that come in. You know, I really never paid a whole lot of attention until I was in the forge. And there was one from Chevrolet come down there because they were putting their rear end gears together, cluster gears, ring and pinions, and they had a new machine. And that machine was matching the gears. They put them in and they'd run them, and they'd mesh them. And he come down just to see that machine run. And I was standing back and looked at him. When he turned around for something, looked at me, he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Looks good to me." That's all I had to say. I can't even tell you his name. But in fact, I shouldn't have been there. I had nothing to do with it. But he was interested to go down and see what he was going to say. I never did find out what he said.
Did you work, now you were on productions,
For a long time, yeah.
Bob Rollis?
Yep, I knew him real well.
What kind of a man was he to work with?
Well, you had to know him, his temperament and stuff, but I thought he was very good. I really did. One thing about Rollis and one of the other, the top-notch,
Bob Mooney?
no, they would stop and talk to anybody that would say a word to him or look at him.
Doug Tracy?
Oh, Doug Tracy and I, if you ever see Mr. Doug Tracy, you tell him you saw Bob Rowley and see what he got to say.
Okay.
We got along fine, but sometimes we had some real tit-tats, real up and down. But Tracy was always over me, so I couldn't do too much. But at the time I told you when Van Ness
Van Ness.
and Ray Federal, they're the ones that come to see me. And I asked them, time I'd getting ready to retire, they knew my letter was in, if there were going to be an early out. I said, you know, Fisher Body people have got an early out. And if there was one, going to be one, I don't want to go because I can get some more money if I don't go than to retire the way I am. No, Raleigh, no such thing. Not here. 60 days later, I had been gone for 30 days or a little more. They had an early out. And to me, that was the worst thing they could have done because they turned my stomach on both of them ever since. Because I never talked to them guys. I never done anything crooked. I never done nothing but help anybody I could in the plant or stuff that they like get done. I got done all that. I thought I had earned that much respect from those two guys because I gave them all I ever had. And I'll be dadgum, they said no. And I think it was June. I think June the 1st, they started their early out. People started going June 1. And I left April 1. And that bothered me ever since then. I would have got some more. I don't know how much more, not a whole lot. But if I hadn't got any more, it wouldn't make no difference. They told me no. That's the thing. And if I had talked to them today, in fact, I went back up there my first time up. I went up to see Van Ness, and he was out of town. But Tracy was up there. I stopped him and talked to him for a little while in his office. And he just shunned this and shunned that. He never had any straight, correct answers. All they want me to believe, Tracy, I told him what happened between Federer and the other guy, Van Ness. And of course, Tracy couldn't answer him. But there was nobody there that I really wanted to see. She just said, well, he's sorry about it. That's all there was to it. He can't do nothing about it. But I had to get it off my chest somehow, you know. Well, after you work there for 30 years or better, I was there 32 years.
That's a long time.
Which is a long time, but it's not as long as a lot of people, you know. I know guys there 40 years, and I can't even tell you his name, and never absent a day. I'll tell you one thing, you count on two hands all the days I was ever absent, outside of going to the hospital to be operated on when I was hurt real bad.
Was this a factory injury?
No,
Oh.
I fell off my boat. And I had arthritis. I'll tell you what, I used to come to work twice a week, early in the morning, get out at 9 o'clock, drive to Detroit to the Ford Hospital, I'd back at 2 o'clock
Gee.
and go see a doctor. I mean, I thought that much of, a lot of them guys would never even come in. A lot of them would go and never come back. But I would. Mom meet me out there with a car and away we'd go, right down old US 16. Or 96, 94 rather. 96 it is,
96,
isn't it?
Right.
You bet. Right down the, I guess at Grand River Avenue, I guess is what it is. We knew where to park. Go up there, I'd be there just on time for my appointment. Go up and get done, go across the street to the restaurant and eat, and head back to Lansing. See, I had arthritis bad, see this? They put me on 12 aspirins a day for a long time. I think it weakened my colon. And when I fell off my boat, it burst it. And I went to work feeling bad. Went to a meeting up there with every morning I had a meeting with production people.
Who would be in that meeting?
Oh boy, I knew you were going to ask that, and I can't tell you. All the production foremen and the boss of
And that
the plant 2.
That would be McRae.
No, McRae was, I don't know. McRae was long gone, I think.
Yeah. Bob Scott.
No. Bob who?
Scott.
No.
Let's see the man.
He lived down the street from us, Mom. Well, maybe it'll come to me.
Judd Cordis.
Everyone's swell fella.
Cordis.
Judd Cordis. He is one excellent man. They got a handful of people when they got him. When I met him in the engine plant when I was first there, down the sheet metal when I worked down there, very good. But all in all, I had a good time at Oldsmobile. I thought it was fun, really, working. They tried to send me to school a few times, and I wouldn't go.
What did they want you to learn, Bob?
Oh, they wanted me to go to GM Tech a couple of times, then they wanted me to go down to this deal where you make speeches or learn. Dale Carnegie 3 different times. And I knew what they was after, but I figured that I was a general foreman, and I knew my job, and I could do any general foreman job at Oldsmobile. There's no way out, but I could do them all. And if I went up another notch, I'd have to start learning a whole lot of new stuff, seeing different people, new people, and I just didn't want to go through the problem. I didn't have that kind of push or something. I don't know. So I stuck where I was, where I felt comfortable. And I liked it, and I ended up there.
Did you know Howard Kane? Did you work with
Kane,
him?
know him very well.
What kind of man was he?
Very good. He's one guy that would come back at night walking around in the plant. And I talked to him twice before I even knew who he was. He was my boss up the line at that time. Yeah, I knew Kane.
Bud Brandel?
No, I didn't know him.
Didn't know Bud.
No.
Let's see here, Bob Mooney?
Yeah, I knew Bob Mooney.
What kind of a man was he to work with?
I never had too much to say with him. He was always in a doggone hurry going somewhere, talking too fast. Who was the man before Cook?
Sanchez.
Who?
Sanchez.
Well, before him then.
Oh.
Not too bad about Sanchez. He had a lot of involved.
Oh, yes, yes.
Very young fella though.
Well, let me see. We had a baker from Canada. John Metzel, Harold Metzel.
Metzel.
Mhm.
You could walk down the street of Oldsmobile and he'd talk to anybody on the street. You better believe it. And I thought that was something because I didn't know him. I'd talked to him.
Did he come out in the plant sometimes?
Oh yeah, he was in the plant. Where you seen the most, they'd have weekly meetings upstairs or somewhere in building 40, I guess it is. Mm-hmm. And he'd come down from there and I'd in the engine plant. And he'd talk to anybody down the street. He'd walk back to the main plant, see. Yeah. There was a couple of guys up there. In fact, the guy you got up there now is
Bill Lane.
Lane. got a 50, excuse me, I got a 86 Oldsmobile 88. And it was a junk car. And I wrote, I'll tell you what, I've had 15, 16, 17 new cars. And I wrote Lane a letter. I put it right across it. Mr. Lane, please. And I took all the paperwork I had, which is about that thick. I got it all in there. I put them in one of the big brown manila envelopes the shop's got. I have some in there. I wrote him a letter and I sent it to him. And I told him what I thought about that car. He wrote me a letter back. I got that in there. And then he sent the paperwork down to Custom Relations. I forget who's the head of it. And this guy writes me a letter and sent me back all my paperwork. But it was an absolute piece of junk.
What did they do about your car?
Oh, I had it all fixed. I just spent more time down at Story Oldsmobile than did anywhere. Not Story, excuse me, Bert Smith. I'm in the wrong city there. But it was. I just can't understand yet why.
86.
Yes, sir. And got all done, and it was a good car. They got it fixed everywhere, and they fixed it right. But it took many months in the garage.
Just stalling or no?
No, the transmission went to pieces in it. The front brakes, knuckles went out. They had to put a complete new air conditioning system in it. And the gas tank went to pot in it. And they took the gas tank, got another, and they put a new gauge in it. And Dick Pearl, you ever heard Dick Pearl?
Mm-hmm.
Dick Pearl was down here, so we had half tank of gas, and we went to Tampa, went to Ebo City to the Cuban restaurant, had some Cuban food. Then we went out to Port Tampa and rode around. There was thousands of cars, love trucks imported. They come into Tampa, and at a quarter tank of gas, I run out of gas in Ebo City. Of all the places to run out of gas, I'll tell you right now. I walked down to the gas station, got a can of 2 gallons of gas, put it in, went back, put some gas in the tank.